Just like I sometimes have to prove to you guys that I still have hair under my hat, there are some players in Major League Baseball that have to prove that they're still worth believing in. And Major League Baseball kind of boiled it down to 3 different categories. Players who have to prove that they can stay healthy, players who are about to be a free agent and kind of scuffle lately, they're trying to prove that they're worth a big-time contract, and the third category, they're kind of fledgling prospects who have to prove that they're not actually a bust. So here it is, one player from every MLB team with the most to prove heading into 2025. Actually, real quick, before we do that, don't forget that these videos are brought to you by SeatGeek and Underdog Fantasy. Use code Fuzzy. Starting us off, we have the Angels. I honestly thought that they were going to go with a Tim Anderson or a Mike Trout. No, they went with Yoan Moncada. I thought Trout because he's got to prove he's got to stay healthy, or Tim Anderson just simply proving that he can be good at baseball again. But I guess it makes sense to go with a Yoan Moncada who signed a 1-year deal. He had 25 home runs back in 2019, a career high. He only has 23 home runs combined since 2022. On top of his skills kind of regressing, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, so I agree with this. Moncada, he has a lot to prove, and his career kind of depends on it. What in the world happened to Chas McCormick in 2024? If I would have told you that Chas McCormick went from a 22 home run campaign in 2023 with a 130 OPS plus to hitting 211 with a 66 OPS plus the next season, I don't know if you would believe me. He went from a plus defender and a plus offensive player to being pretty bad on both sides. He was worth a negative 0.6 WAR last year. I thought maybe they would have gone with Isaac Paredes because of how bad he looked with the Cubs, but Chas, that's a nice pick. For the Sacramento A's, still weird saying that out loud, they went with Zach Galloff, who has honestly had one of the stranger beginnings to a career we've seen in quite some time. Over his first 69 games, he put up a very nice 20 doubles, 14 home runs, 14 stolen bases, and a 134 OPS plus. The counting numbers weren't bad per se in 24. He had 17 home runs, 25 stolen bases, but he struck out 188 times. I don't know how he did that in 138 games. He struck out 7% more and walked almost 2% less. That's not a great combination. But we've already seen it. Zach Galloff has superstar potential. He just has to prove that he can maintain it. Whether you like it or not, J.P. Crawford played like a borderline superstar 2 seasons ago where he led the AL in walks with 94. He also added 35 doubles, 19 home runs, and ended that season with a 133 OPS plus. Granted, the defense was still pretty good last year, so what does he have to prove? He just has to prove that he can be an offensive threat. JP just turned 30 years old, so time is really not on his side. He's got to prove the haters wrong. Now, even though I like the JP Crawford angle, I personally would have gone with Julio Rodriguez. Can J-Rod show that he can be an MVP in the first half, just like he is in the second half? He's kind of become a second half merchant. Adolis Garcia is probably the biggest name of the video so far. I'm almost kind of shocked that he's in today's video, but yeah, he's got something to prove next year. His biggest bugaboo as a big leaguer coming up with the Cardinals and then his first few years with the Rangers was the fact that, yeah, the power was good, he had some pretty good defense, but he couldn't really get on base. His first 3 or 4 years, he put up a combined 290 on base and then kind of shocked us all by putting up a 330 on base percentage in 2023. That plummeted all the way to a 284 on base last year, and the defense, it fell off a cliff as well. The Rangers are going to be so much better this year because everyone seems to be healthy. I'm kind of writing off 2024. It's in the rearview mirror. Come on, Adolis. Give me that 2023 season. Wow, they actually did it. They went with Gabriel Arias for the Guardians. Gabriel looked like the next Carlos Correa back in 2021, where at 21 years old, he hit 285 with 13 home runs and 30 doubles in AAA. Combine that with his insane bat speed, the crazy exit velocities, you would think he's been pretty good in the big league so far. No. He did have 15 doubles and 10 home runs in 23, but that resulted in a 72 OPS plus. He then got worse with the 71 OPS plus in 2024. His crazy 21-year-old season in AAA was almost 4 seasons ago. This is make or break for Arias. Watch him get released, go to the Rays, and instantly become Willy Adames 2.0. It's gonna happen. Whoa, Hunter Renfroe? I don't agree with this at all. Hunter Renfroe is 33 years old and hasn't really been good since 2022. I don't understand this pick at all. I would have gone with Maikel Garcia. And all of these MLB article reaction videos, I haven't done this once, but I'm going to do it. I'm erasing their pick. I'm putting in the correct play. Maikel Garcia, he went from a 323 on base to a 281. Imagine if Maikel Garcia, who stole 37 bags, got back up to a 320 on base. He might steal 60. So Garcia has one thing to prove. He can get on base. All right, MLB. you redeemed yourself. I'm really happy that you didn't go with Javier Baez because that ship has sailed. I'll give Torkelson a little pat on the back. Even though 2024 was a nightmare disaster season, at least the defense got better. As of right now, Spencer isn't even slated to be an everyday player because the Tigers picked up Gleyber Torres, which means that Colt Keith is going to be playing first, and Jace Young, he's not going anywhere. He's playing third. The #1 overall pick in 2020, who demolished baseballs in the second half of 2023, is going to start 2025 in AAA. If that doesn't mean he has a lot to prove, I don't know what will. A few years ago, Edward Julian became one of my favorite players to watch in baseball, not because of what he did in Major League Baseball, but because he was an absolute freak in the World Baseball Classic. But then we got to see him in Major League Baseball, and as a rookie, he went off for 16 home runs, a .380 on base. What? Which it broke my heart to see the power fall off. I don't know what happened to the on-base skills. It almost dropped 100 points from 380 to 292. He was under the Mendoza line. He put up a 199 batting average last year. Maybe I would have copped out and gone with a 3-player answer that Lewis, Buxton, and Correa have to prove that they can stay healthy, but Edward Julian, there's way too much talent coming up the Twins. He's got to prove that he deserves to be on the big league roster. That's a big deal. Mr. Andrew Vaughn is who MLB went with as the most approved for the Chicago White Sox. Let's dive into it. So basically, MLB said that this season has to be the true breakout for Andrew Vaughn, who has had 30 doubles in the past with 20-plus home runs. He had 80 RBIs in 2023, but they're going with the money angle. He's arbitration eligible in 2026, and then he's a free agent in 2027. If he really does experience a true breakout, his bank account is going to be very, very thankful. This article might have come out before they signed Joey Gallo, my friend, but I probably would have given it to him because this is it. If he doesn't show out, it could be over. Probably the easiest choice of the entire article. I haven't really looked at all of it in depth, but Bo Bichette, yeah, just proved that the haircut is going to do wonders like it did with Vladdy. Bo Bichette was straight up bad last year. A negative wins above replacement with a 277 on base. He had a 71 OPS plus while hitting 225. We're talking about a guy that, hit over 300 his first 5.5 seasons? Okay, I lied just a little bit. He hit 299 from 2019 to 2023. I'm just so interested in this contract situation because he's going to be 27 years old. He's a free agent after 2025. If he doesn't lock back in and prove that he's the Bo Bichette of old, what is that contract going to look like? Would it be a short-term 1-year deal as like a prove-it deal? Maybe. So let's just avoid all of that. Bo, show that you're still him. Wow, Jackson Holiday. Now, I guess this does make sense because this is not a bounce-back type of video. This is a you got to prove something. Jackson said that he's been eating a lot of ground beef over the offseason, and because of that, he's put on some muscle, which is crazy because I already thought he was pretty jacked. You got to remember that Jackson just turned 21. He was in AAA at 19, then again at 20 years old, where he had a 908 OPS as a 20-year-old. That's crazy. So he just has to prove that he's not Gabriel Arias, a guy who has sky-high talent, rakes at a young age in AAA, but it somehow doesn't translate. I really wish I would have sold my Josh Lowe cards after he went crazy 2 years ago, but I'm stupid and I didn't. This dude was almost a 4-win player 2 years ago because he had 33 doubles, 20 home runs, and 32 stolen bases with a 130 OPS plus. I'm actually dumb. So please, Josh, for my sake, I know this is a weird request, but prove that your cards are still worth it. Injuries caused the regression last year. He only played in 106 games. He had a 98 OPS plus. He's way better than that. He went from being top 15% in speed to being top 21%, which still means that he's fast, but obviously the athleticism was slightly compromised. I have a serious question to ask you guys. What are the Red Sox going to do with Vaughn Grissom? He played in a handful of games last year. He had 3 doubles in 31 games and ended the year with a 31 OPS plus. Oh my God. With Devers at third base, Story at short, Bregman at second, and Christian Campbell and Marcelo Meyer coming up, what does Vaughn have to prove? I guess he just has to prove that he's mature and he'd be willing to take a trade or play in AAA for a long time. I don't know. But yeah, to MLB's credit, they did say he has to just improve his stock and show that he can play different positions. Okay, maybe he plays the outfield and can prove that he can do that. Jose Altuve's doing it. For the Yankees, MLB went with Anthony Volpe, or is it Volpe? I've heard it pronounced both times by a lot of prominent people. So they went with Anthony because they're saying that he's got really good defense, he steals bases. They're saying that he has to prove that he can avoid slumps. Okay, that's actually a nice perspective. He must prove that he can make adjustments to minimize slumps and raise his on-base percentage. What was it last year? 290 .293. That was better than his rookie season, but still not good. I completely forgot that he went from 21 home runs to 12. All right, Volpe, we want to see postseason Anthony for a full year. Please give it to us. So that was the American League side of things. Let's make our way over to the National League. By the way, if you enjoy these sorts of videos, do me a favor. It really helps me out. Leave a like and also subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, they went with KB for the Rockies, not kissing Kate Barlow. Chris Bryant. And you got to be joking. You got to be kidding me. As I was reacting to this article, he got hit by a pitch in spring training. Like, not games, a practice. I mean, that's it. That's the entire point of him being included. It's not like they're saying he's going to bounce back and be a 40 home run guy. They're simply saying that Chris Bryant has to prove that he can stay healthy. And that's why I thought they were going to go with Mike Trout with the Angels. Okay, here we go. I like what MLB did with the Padres. Luis Campusano, he probably would have been my pick as well because we saw what he did in 2023. Like, I don't want that just to be an outlier and can't happen again season. In 91 games in 2024, everything that could have gotten worse got worse. The batting average went from 319 to 227. He got on base significantly less, and the power fell off a cliff as well. He was terrible at blocking, terrible at throwing runners out, terrible at framing, and he's really slow. Okay. I have faith in Luis bouncing back as an offensive catcher, but the defense, I don't know how fast they can fix it, but it's got to get fixed, and he's got to prove that it sticks. I'll put my hands up and say I genuinely thought Marco Luciano was going to be a Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt kind of player out the gate, and I mean, I was really wrong on that. I just got his profile wrong, I guess. But then again, he's only 23, so there's plenty of time for me to end up being right. We saw a small little glimpse of what Marco could be. Now, he's not going to ever sustain these types of numbers, but his first 8 games last year, he hit .410 with the .480 on base, and then he got hurt. After coming back from injury, all of the bad habits and things that made Marco considered to be a bust or like a 4A player, they came back. He has all the talent in the world, just like a Brett Beatty type player, to prove that he's not a 4A kind of guy. Hey, James, if you don't prove us wrong, you might be out, man. I'm so sorry. How did this happen? How did James go from, 24 home runs and almost 4 wins above replacement his first 155 games to basically not even playing in 2024. He did, but he was bad. Teoscar's back. They signed Kim, so Edman's going to be an outfielder. You also have Michael Conforto. Now it's his turn to watch the tape, readjust to MLB, adjusting to him, and just show the Dodgers he can be a guy that can get called up at any moment and rake. I would have gone with the easy answer. I would have not picked James Outman. I would have said, hey, can Shohei prove that he can throw baseballs again? I know it sounds simple, and it is, but I want to see it. Can he do it effectively like a Nathan Eovaldi? Because Nathan Eovaldi is kind of the only guy we've seen that has had not just 1, but 2 arm surgeries and still been pretty good. Jordan Montgomery for the Diamondbacks. I mean, do I even have to say anything? I can pretty much move on, right? A 6.2 ERA, then you pick up your $22.5 million. I mean, he had every right to pick that up. He was offered that by the owner of the Diamondbacks. The owner of the Diamondbacks has to take it off the chin. Can he prove to be even a number 3 starter? I don't know. What's the bar? What's the ceiling for J-Mo heading into 2025? I knew they were going to pick J-Mo, but also Brandon Pfaadt would have been a fun play as well because he had an almost 5 ERA, but all of the Sabre metrics like FIP and Sierra, they loved Brandon Pfaadt, so they're expecting a breakout. But again, this is not a breakout video. This is not a bounce back video. These are just players that have to prove something. Did you guys know that Luis Castillo, I believe he's top 5 or even top 3 in ERA since being traded to the Reds? Noelvi Marte was a superstar prospect traded in return, and he got busted for PEDs and then sucked in 2024. And that's me being nice. A 49 OPS plus and somehow an almost -2 WAR in 66 games. Noelvi, maybe you should go back to doing what you were doing. Obviously, I'm being facetious. I don't encourage cheating and stuff like that, but man, Noelvi, prove to us that you did not need steroids to be a decent ball player. So if they went with Henry Davis for the Pirates, I feel like we're going to see Brett Beatty for the Mets, right? I say that because both Davis and Beatty are some of the craziest 4A players ever. They aren't very good in the big leagues, but as soon as they go down to AAA, they look like Babe Ruth. Joey Bart pretty much stole Henry Davis's job as a catcher. Like, if he ever had a chance at it, Andy Rodriguez is coming back as well. Henry is going to have to be an outfielder. And if that's the case, you can't be a MLB outfielder hitting 144 with a 28 OPS plus. Nah, it's not going to cut it, my guy. But again, he's a former #1 overall pick who destroys AAA pitching. These are not scrubs by any means. In 71 games, Henry's hitting .320 with a .425 on base, a .990 OPS. He has 15 home runs and 11 stolen bases in those 71 games with 18 doubles. He's really, really good down there. He's 25 years old. All I really can say is he's got to win a job. He doesn't have one right now. It's spring training or bust. Jordan Wicks is in similar conversations as Henry Davis because Jordan Wicks was a very high prospect. He was drafted 21st overall in the 2021 draft. He was a highly touted prospect for as long as I can remember, and he's been lit up. He pitched in 46 innings last year for the Cubs, only struck out 42 guys, had an almost 4 walks per 9, while also giving up nearly 11 hits per 9. Jeez, he was literal batting practice. Not sure how much wiggle room the former 94th overall prospect is going to have because the Cubs rotation is pretty heavy right now. He's also kind of been torn up in AAA as well. Before that, he had like a 3.6 ERA in AA with a lot of strikeouts. That's probably why he was included in this video. He's got to prove that he can strike guys out again. Ooh, wow. Okay, they went with Nolan Gorman, another young, power-hitting Cardinals prospect that hasn't really worked out, but then again has had moments of, like, honestly, greatness. I'm sure a lot of you thought that it was going to be Jordan Walker, but again, this is not my list. We're just reacting to it. Nolan Gorman was sent down to AAA last year. And the sad part about that is the power was good. He had 7 home runs in 23 games, which is why we like Nolan Gorman, a fun, almost like lefty version of Dan Uggla, but the batting average was still like 205, and the on-base barely got better. He went from 271 in the big leagues to 276 in AAA. You're never going to have a job if you do that. 2 years ago, he went off for 27 home runs and a 330 on base, so he's done it before. Get back to that. Similar to a Mike Trout, Chris Bryant, Kyle Tucker, guys who have been superstars in the past that have kind of been, I'd say, derailed. I don't think Kyle Tucker's in that conversation because he was a stud last year before he got hurt. Brandon Woodruff has easily been one of the more underrated starting pitchers in baseball since 2018. A sub-3 ERA with a bunch of strikeouts. 756 strikeouts his last 640 innings. This one's pretty easy. All that he has to show is that he can come back from this latest shoulder surgery and be himself again. It's going to be tough because shoulders, they're no joke. MLB said that he needs to rediscover the zip on his signature fastball. I agree. No, they can't be serious, right? Taijuan Walker, the thief Taijuan Walker, I should say. This man is in a 4-year, $72 million contract, and so far as a Philly, he has a 5.3 ERA, and I think the strikeouts have gone down every single year. Yeah, they have. At the same time as the strikeouts going down, the walks, the home runs per 9, and the hits per 9 went up. I don't even know what to say about this man. Just proof that he's not the Hamburglar. We have the first and I believe only 2-player pick in the entire article. The Nationals, they went with DJ Hertz and Mitchell Parker as players to prove something. This makes a lot of sense actually now that I see their stats on paper. They were both like 4.1 to 4.2 ERA guys last year as rookies. DJ Hertz was a strikeout machine, man. He was that nasty. He had 106 strikeouts and 88 innings as a starting pitcher. That's crazy. You have Mackenzie Gore out there. Trevor Williams is back. Cade Cavalli's going to be healthy. So in terms of proving things after Josiah Gray comes back, it's probably going to be who can prove to be the 5th starter, right? Like that's probably the angle they're going for. I also completely forgot about Michael Soroka as an option. Jake Irvin. They have Shinosuke Agasawara. If I botched that, I'm so sorry. So yeah, Hertz and Parker, they're basically proving who can be the 5th or 6th starter. Do you guys remember how much fun 21-year-old Francisco Alvarez was to watch as a rookie? I think he clubbed, what, 25 home runs? I mean, he looked like a superstar. I mean, I don't want to use that word lightly, but he looked like a superstar. In 123 games 2 years ago, he had 25 home runs in 123 games. Now, in 2024, he actually got better in a few departments, but because of that, he lost out on the pop. He went from 25 home runs to 11 home runs, but also had a better batting average and got on base more often. So the proof is going to be in the pudding. Can Francisco Alvarez be a 30 home run hitter? Time will tell. Also, one more super important thing to mention about Francisco Alvarez that changed from 23 to 24. He was probably the worst blocking catcher in all of baseball last year. Great at framing. He had a pretty decent pop time, but when it came to blocking, he was bottom 2%. Like, that's bad. My guy, one of my favorite MLB The Show cards of all time, Edward Cabrera. He throws a zillion miles an hour. He strikes out a fair amount of hitters, but he also gives up a lot of runs. That wasn't always the case in 2022. We're going back some time now. I know it's 2025 now, but he wasn't walking as many guys. He wasn't giving up as many base hits, and because of that, he had a 3 ERA his first 14 starts. The strikeouts are still there. He isn't allowing as many walks as he did in 2023, so that's a great sign. I guess if you're looking at guys who should break out, he's going to be 27 years old. Maybe that's kind of two videos in one. A guy who has to prove that he can break out. It's Edward Cabrera. Maybe I'm delusional that what he did in 2022 was the breakout, that 71 innings does classify as like a good amount of sample size. I don't believe that's the case. I want 150 innings of a 3.3 ERA from Edward Cabrera. With Sandy maybe potentially getting flipped this year to get more prospects back on the rebuilding Marlins, Edward could be their future ace. He's got to prove it. If my kids ever ask me who was one of the more talented catchers I ever saw with my own eyes, like I watched them play, Sean Murphy is going to be in that conversation. One of the better defensive catchers of the last, decade or two. At the same time, he can go off for 37 doubles. That was his career high in 2022. He had 21 home runs and a 127 OPS plus in 2023 as an all-star. And then in 2024, he did play 72, but I mean, just like we've said in this video already, maybe he just shouldn't have played. He hit 193 with a 76 OPS plus. The Braves do have a young catcher by the name of Drake Baldwin. He is basically projected to be ready by 2025, which it's 2025. Murphy is not a free agent until 2029, so it's not like he's at the risk of losing a bunch of money because he stunk it up right before he got a new contract. All we're really looking for, I'm talking about myself and MLB, because I'll probably give them this pick as well. I think I do agree. You just got to stay on the field. And there you have it. Who is the one player that you think has the most to prove heading into 2025? Who's the one guy you think this is it? I appreciate you guys watching until the end. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.